Does anyone feel prepared to do this?
No, not at all.
Not at all.
Great, let's go.
Hello, and welcome back to another podcast episode of American Pylon. Your host here, Will Mehall, joined by my colleagues James Thomas Fanning IV, Tyler Combs, and David Grayson, our producer, who makes all of this happen there behind the computer. We've got a lot to get to today. Obviously, it's an exciting time. It's game week.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
No more waiting. I'm so excited.
Finally.
None Saturdays left without Georgia football.
One, but...
Well, the bye week,
Yeah, I
but
know.
until there's
Yep.
Georgia football.
Yeah, very exciting.
Yeah.
Yep. So we're going to talk a little bit about the matchup against Austin Peay this weekend and break down a couple more UGA topics. And then we're going to get into another Mount Rushmore discussion there at the end. But before we get into all that, I want to give a shout out to one of our newest partners, In We Go. If you are like us and you enjoy going out and hitting the town, checking out some of the breweries, some of the different events around the city, In We Go is the one-stop shop for all of that. For just $30 a month, you can get unlimited access to various events around the city, now live in Atlanta, Phoenix, Denver, and just opened up in
DC.
Washington, D.C. So very exciting. We're glad to partner with In We Go, so be sure to check them out.
Yeah. The three of us on camera are going to the Cubs game on Thursday, right?
Yep.
You coming to that?
Yeah. David, you not going?
No.
David doesn't have In We Go. He hasn't used promo code Pylon to get $10 off.
That's
his
right.
first
Promo
month.
code Pylon will give you $10
Probably
off.
Shouldn't say that.
Your
We're
first-
going to get our sponsorship pulled if they know that
Yeah.
David doesn't have it.
Yeah.
He's got it.
Let's just hope they don't pull statistics on that.
Mm-hmm.
But no, that's definitely going to be really exciting. I had tickets to that first game. It's actually a rain-out makeup. But they advertised on In We Go that it's going to be level 100 and 200 level seats, which is promises to be good viewing for everyone that's in attendance. So I'm really
be a good
excited
time.
about that. But we're going to jump into UGA football here, and of course we're going to start off by talking about opening week for the Bulldogs going up against Austin Peay. We heard Kirby talk a little bit about the matchup, but I want to hear what you guys think. What can we expect to see in this first game of the season for the Bulldogs?
I mean, I don't think we're going to see too much. We'll get to see the freshmen play just because we're going to blow them out, but I don't think it's really Kirby's MO to give too much film to other teams when we don't really need it, when we can just line up and just beat them.
Yeah, I think we'll be pretty vanilla as we,
Yeah.
for what we can get away with. I think, we'll be run first, run heavy, probably set up some play action, and then see some young kids get in the game, hopefully just after a halftime, because I would imagine by halftime this will be over. And I think anything other than a blowout and just absolute domination would be
Well, but the
a little
only
bit
thing
of
is,
a letdown.
as far as, assuming, Jake Fromm's not going to play most of the second half because we're going to be ahead, what are your thoughts as far as him coming out to start the second half? I mean,
Right.
you want him to come out and play at least one series so that coming out against South Carolina isn't his first
No doubt.
halftime he has to come back from. But
So Kirby actually commented on that in his media piece. I think it was today or yesterday. He said that they actually have no plans to have a two-quarterback system. It'll just be the starter, which they really haven't announced, but it'll be Jake Fromm, and then I think it'll be Jake Fromm until it's just time for backups to come in. From the way his quote read, he said they have no intentions to running a two-quarterback system or even having a best-case scenario quarterback. I guess they said it's going to go. They're prepping both guys to be ready, is what he said. Now, granted, this could be all coach speak, and granted,
'cause
to your point, you don't
I-
have to show much this early in the season for such a weak opponent. But
I did assume that we would have, from what you've kind of heard, that we might have an entire series kind of scripted for Fields.
I think
in the
they're
first half,
working
like
on
maybe
that.
like the fourth series, no matter what, throw him out there.
I think they work on that. They probably give them scenarios. They probably do that. I guess and maybe it's just because of this game. Maybe it's week to week.
Yeah.
But so maybe that's just for Austin Peay. Based on what Kirby said, there is no plans to get Fields into the game until the game is well in hand, and then.
What I would like to see is when Fields comes in, to see him in there for whole series and in drives. I think just to put him in for one play to basically hand the ball off, that doesn't really add anything to. It doesn't give him that much experience, and it doesn't. It could kind of mess with continuity. I don't see it messing with Jake Fromm's head just because he seems to kind of have it between the ears pretty good. But if Fields is playing, I'd like to see Fields.
Totally agree with that. I think as fans, that's what we want to see.
Yeah.
And to your point, you make a good point about as far as this is all about preparation for Justin Fields, right? For when that time comes, you need him to step in. We saw what happened last year: 3 drives in, or 3 possessions in, whatever it was, and Eason went down and Fromm comes in. So we're going to need Fields to be ready because that happens in football. So that's a good point. 'Cause my first reaction to what you just said there was that's what we want to see. Kirby doesn't care if Fields goes out there and throws for a touchdown or throws for 100 yards. He's gonna. I mean, if it serves him and us best to hide all of what we've been preparing for all off season, it'll just be handing the ball off every time. I would imagine, but
that could be true. Yeah, as a fan, selfishly,
we want to see that.
Sling it. We want to see Fromm do it. I mean, we want to see the offense. I hope we score 100 points.
No doubt. I mean, I think. I think selfishly we want to see that, and we want fireworks, and we want to create that narrative. But I think we probably shouldn't set an expectation for ourselves to see something too exciting from Fields just yet.
To me, the most important thing is, and maybe Kirby can kind of control the narrative inside the locker room a little bit more, and who knows how much the players really get on Twitter and read message boards and stuff like that. But I feel like they do a little. So to me, I want to get out of this game without igniting sort of a quarterback controversy, because we've made it through the offseason and it's been so sort of low key. It's been, Fromm is the starter, Fields is the backup. There hasn't been this Tua Hurts mess that seems to be going on at Alabama. So to me, the worst case scenario would be one where, we kind of cruise because we should, even just on our run game.
Sure.
But Fromm looks kind of shaky, and then Fields, when he does get in, just lights it up. And
sure.
That's just going to be a bunch of fans talking.
Yeah, right.
So, I don't think that'll really affect Kirby that much, but that's the only negative I see that could come.
And that's one thing. So it was kind of interesting. I was looking at Dog Nation today, and Kirk Herbstreit joined the guys on their broadcast, and he was talking about that quarterback controversy. He actually said, quote, "I'd be very cautious with how I handled that situation because Jake Fromm has that it factor, and this team wants to play for him, and the team responded to his leadership a year ago." So to your point, I mean, do you think that's even a feasible possibility of there really being a quarterback controversy? Because like you mentioned, you alluded to, Fromm's got it between the ears, so I can't imagine that would really affect him. Is there any risk of that really?
I don't see him losing the team or losing the locker room. So again, it's probably us fans thinking we're more important than we are. We know all the players listen to this podcast, so we want to make sure that we're presenting kind of a united front.
That's fair. Yeah, we want to be fair to everyone in the locker room. But
I think Kirby plays it before practices and stuff.
That's fair.
Red.
Yeah. No, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case. And, in fact, we hopefully encourage that. If you guys have any thoughts, or things that we should address, be sure to comment.
Yeah.
And,
because we have our hand on the pulse of Georgia football, so we can get in.
But it's exciting. But it's just kind of a warm-up game for South Carolina. The biggest thing for a game like this is you just hope there's no injuries.
Right. Yeah, that's big. Did you see where they said Tyreek McGee is out officially for this game? Mm-hmm.
Okay, so he was...
That opens up cornerback. Well, for sure cornerback. He was star cornerback, depending on...
Yeah, it sounds like Webb is probably...
I think that would shift Webb into cornerback, and then I'm going to say D'Angelo Gibbs at star, I guess.
Grant has played a lot at it, more of the heavy packages.
Yeah, but I think that's more of... I've always thought it was interesting when they put outside linebackers there or inside linebackers at that star position. Yeah. I feel like
we were spoiled with how athletic Lorenzo Carter was. Even though you and I used to talk about when we would see him matched up on a slot receiver, we would just cringe.
Yeah.
And that's even with him being in the 1% of athleticism of outside linebackers. Sure. So
yeah, I don't know what situation do you think that occurs where someone like D'Angelo Gibbs isn't going to be in star where Walter Grant steps into that kind of
I guess role. Just when you're in your heavy package, so you're assuming they're going to run the ball. You're just playing tendencies and playing.
Well, you would think you would stick with your regular 3-4. I don't want to get into. We don't have to get that deep. But
we can start doing that as we get more into the season.
Maybe. Yeah, I mean, I guess let's see what happens.
You've been reading that Grant's practicing there enough that they must have plans for him there somewhere, and then Lorenzo Carter was out there playing in space.
Sure,
a lot more than we would have probably preferred as fans last year. We'd rather see him, rush the passer.
We had that scenario when we had Notre Dame, and I guess it was a long down situation. I don't know if it was second or third and long.
Oh, when he broke up the pass where the guy just straight up dropped it.
Yeah,
and he got beat.
Yeah, it was bad. But anyway, that just comes to mind that it was actually a long yardage situation, I guess.
Okay.
So maybe, I don't know. That would still wouldn't make sense, but...
Yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing Gibbs out there. I mean, I'd even just rooting for him as, fan of the program, and obviously you wish the best for these kids. He was a 5-star guy that had a lot of stuff that we still don't really know a ton about going on last year, whether it was maybe he failed a drug test, maybe he was injured. They really kept it under wraps. But
well, I almost think going back to the Justin Fields, Jake Fromm debate, if you want to have him prepared, let's go ahead and put Gibbs out there and to get some lighter competition
Yeah.
Which Kirby would never admit that, but take it very seriously, game by game, week by week. But let's put him out there, get his feet wet, give him the start, give him that confidence, and let's get rolling and see what he can do when the lights are on Saturday.
To that point, like Cox and Campbell, I think are going to be pretty exciting to watch because they're just two freshmen that seem to have the biggest chance of making
and those
impact.
are the two names we're hearing coming out this close to starting. Yep. So that's going to be fun to watch those guys get in there. Yeah. And hopefully break through. Of course, like we said before in other episodes, anything in the secondary, speaking of Gibbs and Starr and who's going to start at cornerback without Tyreek McGee being there, any kind of bolster to the depth chart for someone stepping up like a Tyson Campbell is huge and welcomed. So
it'll be exciting. It'll be nice, again, hopefully everybody stays healthy and kind of lead into that South Carolina game.
Yeah, but I guess to wrap up for the whole Austin Peay thing, I guess everyone, I would imagine, in Bulldog Nation expects a blowout domination, and anything less would be. I don't think it's time to hit the panic button, but just we expect.
Yeah. So we were reading up on Austin Peay because I didn't know anything about it. I think when I was an 8th grader, the quarterback at my high school went and played for Austin Peay.
What is their mascot? Does anybody know?
The Governors. The Governors. And they're located in Clarksville, Tennessee. So shout out to Brian and Nikki Guile, who recently moved there.
Very fun wedding.
They are listeners. They've sent me Snapchats of themselves listening to the podcast, so we appreciate y'all. And another fun fact that's listed on Wikipedia,
so it's definitely true,
is that the school's popular cheer is "Let's Go Pee." So that's kind of fun for them.
Wow,
I
how
guess.
about that?
Yeah,
good for you guys.
Yeah, I bet they enjoy themselves saying that.
Yeah, it's definitely excited to get the season kicked off. It's kind of tough because to me, it's also still kind of like a waiting game to get a real opponent.
Sure.
It's
the thing that stinks is that it's at the same time as Tennessee, West Virginia, and Auburn, Washington.
Yeah.
So it's like, I'm going to watch Georgia because anytime Georgia's on, I'm going to watch them, no questions asked. Sure. And I want to see the freshmen play, but those are two good games that I'd like to watch.
Yeah. So I think we're all just really looking forward to seeing what happens in this game, to Jimmy's point, hoping everybody comes away healthy and then really be able to dive in from what we saw in the Austin Peay game to address what we have coming forward in that South Carolina game. So still an exciting time, but unfortunately not the most exciting opponent to kick things off.
As an aside, just because we haven't addressed it really, who you got? Auburn, Washington. I'm going off script here.
Okay, I'm going to go Washington.
Okay.
Just because, this is solely going off of one position group that's hard to replace. They have lost 4 of 5 returning starters in the offensive line, and that is hard. Auburn did, yeah. And I don't know, maybe Washington did too. Maybe they lost all 5, but Auburn, they both have returning quarterbacks. Clint Bowling, I guess, on the national scene is a little more. Is it Clint Bowling? Is that the name?
Clint Bowling played for Georgia like 8 years ago.
I think it's a NASCAR driver also.
Is this in Auburn or is this in Washington?
It's in Atlanta. It's here in Chick-fil-A kickoff.
Oh, that's the kickoff?
Yeah.
So it's more favorable to Auburn because obviously
for sure
close proximity in the city here is a ton of
Auburn is favored by 1.5 points.
So that's
it's
funny.
like
so
half
they
a
give
home
you
field advantage.
I guess that's a good point. They give you, for those of you that don't know, for when they release spreads 7 points, 3 points. When you play at home, they give you 3 points. Just take that into consideration. Knock off 3, and that gives you the true.
So to me, like when I first saw that, my first thought was like, "Oh, Vegas considers this a dead even game, and they're giving Auburn a quasi home field advantage because it's so much closer." There are tickets available for really cheap right now.
Really?
It surprised me. I thought Auburn
surprising.
would just swarm that place. That's a long trip from the Pacific Northwest for the Washington fans to make.
Yeah, Easton did it once. Didn't turn out as planned, but maybe it will for Washington. Obviously for
Easton
SEC,
was a damn good dog. We wish Easton.
He was
best.
no hard feelings towards Easton.
Washington.
Obviously for the SEC brand for national, when they come into our territory like that, I want us to win. The SEC that is, but I'm just because of replacing 4 or 5 offensive linemen, and they are a pass heavy offense. I'll just go to Washington.
See, and thinking about that, I think that's a really good point. I went Auburn just because to me I don't really watch Washington that much. I don't watch West Coast football that much. So the last time I really watched Washington and paid attention was the playoff game against Bama 2 years ago when they just got destroyed.
Yeah, rolled over. Yeah.
And the biggest thing was their offensive line just couldn't block Bama's defensive line.
Fair.
They were just living in their backfield, and Browning had no time to throw or anything. Who's Washington's quarterback?
Is it
senior
Browning?
this year.
That's who it is. Yeah.
Jake Browning. Yeah, he went to my cousin's high school in Northern California.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Folsom Bulldogs. So good job, Jake Browning.
Jimmy knows somebody in every state, I believe.
Fun fact: Jake Browning and then Alabama's left tackle Jonah Williams went to high school together.
Okay.
Folsom High School.
That's
Folsom
a very
Bulldogs,
fun fact.
Sacramento, California.
Go Dogs.
But anyway, so I feel like Auburn's D-line is going to be as good this year as anyone that Bama has put on the field in the last few years. So if that repeats itself, it's just really, when a team is, their identity is their quarterback, it's hard for them to win a game when he can't take a 5-step drop.
That's fair. I can definitely see Auburn's defensive line being that strong, and their linebackers, I think, are also a solid core coming back. It's just, they lose both. I know they lost, I'm drawing a blank. What was his name?
You're talking about Auburn's
Yeah,
linebackers?
Kerryon Johnson.
Oh,
Not running back, sorry. Kerryon Johnson, and Cam Martin's back.
Cameron
Petway.
He's gone.
So you lose your top two.
Yeah,
That's
I think
tough.
Kerryon Johnson they're going to miss. They seem to find that running back like every 3 years. Like it was Trey Mason was the last time in 2013 that they had a guy that and then it was Mike Dyer before, and they had Cam Newton back then, but they seem to find a guy like every 3-4 years that they can really just ride hard, especially first game of the season because they're healthy.
Didn't they also lose Ryan Davis? They lost a few guys to injury for wide receivers. Like, is it Stove, I think?
Stove's a little slot guy. I think he tore his ACL.
He tore his ACL, and I think they lost, was it Ryan Davis?
Kyle Davis, I think, got kicked off the team. He was a 5-star.
That's a lot to...
was a Georgia land for a while.
I remember that.
Yeah,
but anyway, so with all... That's just a lot of missing
Sawyer
pieces.
Page.
I'm sure he'll be grilling us on this.
Yeah, comment on the podcast and tell us all these things that we're getting wrong because we don't really keep up with Auburn. We'll have you on the show soon.
But yeah, so just all of those things. I mean, from what I can remember, top 2 rushers, top 2 receivers, and four of 5 offensive linemen is tough to overcome in week 1, especially against a high-power offense. Granted, if they can get off. And I will admit that because I feel like we need to be a little bit self-aware that as Georgia fans, we also lost our top 2 rushers and our top receiver, and we're over here like we're gonna be better than last year. So. Yeah, but we're playing Austin P.
Well, no, I mean, and I think we are. We're bringing in some equally talented guys. So
I think it starts in the trenches, right? I think, which may be a counterpoint to my argument for that game. I know we're getting in a tangent here off something we don't have on the docket, but I mean, our offensive line is all back. Essentially all but one, and then easily replace, shift over Andrew Thomas. I mean, we were very confident in our offensive line. So even no matter who, I shouldn't say no matter, but that can easily. That can help alleviate some issues you have in the backfield and give your quarterback time. So that's just
a fun debate, which I guess we've kind of run out of time because we're about to see the product on the field. So there's it's kind of an off-season debate, but it's going to be like how much are we going to miss the senior leadership of Chubb and Michelle? No doubt, because they're obviously great running backs, 2 of the best to ever play for the Red and Black, but at the same time with this offensive line that we're building and the depth we're building. We don't need guys to be that talented to have equal production.
Yeah, I hate saying that. It sounds dirty.
Yeah.
But I agree.
One thing is like, could you imagine if Todd Gurley had ever got to run behind
this offensive
Pittman offensive line? That'd have been nasty.
My pants are fitting funny. Just thinking about it.
But so, Will, what about Notre Dame, Michigan? Just to loop you back into this, that's a Saturday night, 7 o'clock, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I gotta go with Notre Dame.
With Notre Dame, yeah.
I mean, I'm
Lou Holtz over here.
I think Notre Dame's getting a good time because Michigan is.
You gotta go with Notre Dame here, guys. I mean, you just been looking at them; they just look great out there.
That was actually Lou Holtz. Just stop.
Thanks for calling in, Lou. We appreciate it.
All right, we lost Lou, but I agree. I mean, I think they got the Shea Patterson transfer from Ole Miss.
That's huge, yeah.
What Michigan did, so you might as well play. If a team has a transfer quarterback that they're counting on to be kind of the savior of the program, I would imagine you want to play him as early as possible because it might take time for him to gel with the rest of the guys. So they may be getting him at a perfect time. So I'll go Notre Dame.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Every time I look at Notre Dame and every time I see them ranked preseason, it's always like a depressing thing because to me they can only let you down.
I think you could argue that about.
But I think
I
think that they're almost overrated every season. As much as I am a fan of Notre Dame, like
them in Texas.
Yeah. So to me, it's like I don't hold out super high hopes for the Irish, but I do think in this matchup, to Jimmy's point, I think they'll be able to squeak out a win here. But I the rest of their season's kind of.
Where's that game at? Is that neutral site, or do we know? In the big house, or
I don't think it's at Notre Dame.
What did we get called South Bend? I never did. Was there ever a nickname for
It's
Notre
not,
Dame?
it's not like the horse. Okay. That's so high.
Yeah, I'm happy.
But
about that.
I think we've addressed this several times on podcasts. But I'll root for Notre Dame in any game that doesn't affect Georgia going forward.
After that experience,
that campus, that fan base, they were fantastic. So
yeah,
I'm all Irish in that one.
Okay, so looking ahead, we addressed this topic a little bit earlier on in our podcasts. But we kind of want to revisit it because we were talking to Jimmy prior to the show, and he thinks he might have changed his pick possibly. But the safe bet for UGA's season is to have them going 11-1. So if we're looking back at the schedule and things kind of settling, the dynamics settling, who would you guys say would be that one-loss team too?
before we go, I want Jimmy to share that first, but we are favored in all 12 games for the record. It's just the safe, money bet. The safe bet is to say that the last undefeated champ was 2009 Bama, I believe, or 2010.
That was 09 against Texas.
Auburn 2010 went undefeated also, but I'm just saying the last. I guess like Bama's kind of the.
Last time Bama went
undefeated. They did it. So
my thought process for that, which we talked about, I think on the first or second podcast, was just it's so hard to go undefeated that it's easy to look and say we should win all 12, but realistically, 11-1, win the SEC championship. Everything's still in front of us.
Right.
So I was kind of talking to my dad about it, and to me, it feels like the closer we're getting in the season, the more we're seeing with this offensive line, and it sounds like Jake Fromm has a real good handle on the offense. That to me, if the offense is clicking, I just don't see anybody beating us. Even if it turns into kind of a shootout with Missouri or something like that, if we're going out there, if we're not playing a team that's putting a defense on the field capable of slowing our offense down, I just think we're going to be able to outscore anybody. Sure. So to me, the potential trap games, the potential losses would be the teams that are putting, decent defenses out on the field. Mm-hmm. And so, to me, as far as teams that are putting good defenses out there, the three that I see are South Carolina, LSU, and Auburn. Mm-hmm. Out of those, South Carolina, I don't see it. I think we're going to be so dialed in. I think it's early in the season. I think we're going to be so focused on it because I think it would take an awesome effort by the other team's defense and just kind of an off, goofy day by our offense. Mm-hmm. So to me, LSU is I don't think they're the best team we're going to play, but they always have a good defense, and it's kind of at that time in the season where it would be easy to start to, if we're undefeated, we're ranked number 2, number 3, or even number 1, depending on what happens. It might be easy for those guys to kind of start believing the hype about themselves and just kind of have a fluky off day, and that can snowball really fast in Death Valley. And then Auburn, to me, I feel like at that point, assuming we're undefeated going into Auburn, we make it through those first 2. I think Kirby's going to have those guys so focused in again because the end will be in sight. So to me, that middle of the season is the most trap part, which leaves you LSU and Missouri. And I think that LSU has a better chance because their defense is better, and that's how you're going to have to beat us.
I think they definitely. That's good. I mean, of those 3, you said South Carolina, LSU, Auburn are the best defenses. Totally agree. LSU is also I think that'll be the most hostile environment we play in all year. So that'll be difficult. I guess to me, South Carolina, it's that early obviously nothing's changed. No one's played a snap yet. I do agree with Jimmy with our offense being as strong as it is and being able to rely on the offensive line. I can see us moving the ball first most. I just don't, and maybe this is to your point, it's a low-scoring game. LSU, they have a new quarterback, and let's say, was that week 7?
Something like that.
Maybe he's a little more veteran. South Carolina already has that in week 2 on the road versus probably the second toughest environment we'll play in at Williams-Brice.
Yeah.
Have we determined, do we know what time that game is at?
Yeah, it's at 3:30. So we escaped a night game, which is like
so that's favorable.
And the one thing I've read that makes sense is that game is going to be so hot that later in the game we're going to have to rely on our depth, and we're so much deeper than them. Like you could maybe argue their starting 22 could go toe to toe with our starting 22, but when I wouldn't argue that, but just for the sake of argument,
sure,
maybe say that their starters are a lot closer to our starters than their depth guys are.
Oh, I totally agree with that.
Guys. So I think that could favor us.
I would say the same with LSU, though, right? Maybe I'm being naive here, not educated enough, but has LSU? Have they been recruited to half the level we have recently? I know. They have the pedigree and they have the name and the brand, but I don't think they're. I think the same could be said there because
that's true. That I can't really.
Les Miles is gone for a reason, and Coach O hasn't really been lighting it up on.
Yeah, I agree with that. I just feel like LSU, if nothing else, they're gonna have good cornerbacks. They got Greedy Williams, and then I think they had a cornerback who like failed a drug test like 2 years ago, and he was suspended for 2 years.
I think they have an inside linebacker too.
But it just got reversed. So he sat out all of last year, and then he got the ruling overturned. So they
have a kind of an unknown diamond in the rough guy.
Yeah, but a real highly rated guy coming out of high school, and then they're always just going to have good pass rushers because of who they seem to be.
Yeah, they will. But to me, when I hear that, I would almost say, then wouldn't our offensive line almost negate that? Wouldn't our offense almost erase that advantage of theirs? And maybe
I agree with that. I mean, on paper, when you put our guys versus their guys, we should win every game.
And then with them having a new court, I'm just playing devil's advocate, obviously, not trying to be have my Georgia blinders on, but our defense versus their offense, and I guess having a newer quarterback, maybe a little more seasoned there at week 7. Did they have Geis last year? Geis was gone.
I agree with that, and that's what I don't. That's back to my point that if our offense is allowed to click at all, like I don't. If we lose a game, it's going to be a low scoring game. I don't see us losing a game 49-42 or something like that.
Not to LSU, yeah.
Yeah, so it's like I think. I mean, in a perfect world, I see the LSU game as being like, because I don't think their offense is going to be that good. So maybe like a 24-13 game or something that we win. But if we lose, I could see it being.
What was your prediction there?
Like 24-13.
It's funny. 24-7. Rusty predicted 24-14.
Oh, did he?
Look at you. Yeah.
Right. Rusty's giving them an extra point.
They're playing at home. So.
Yeah, but I think if we lose a game, I see it being like a 17-13 type loss where we have Fromm or Fields or whoever, where we have like a couple turnovers, because turnovers are kind of the great talent equalizer.
Yeah.
If we can keep control of the ball, I think we'll just be able to grind a lot of teams down.
Looking at LSU's schedule, they head in to, or we head to them after they're on the road at Florida in Gainesville. They play us, and then as it stands right now, preseason rankings, they go then onto the road. They get number 18 Mississippi State at home, and then they get Bama. It's a tough stretch. They go Florida, Georgia, Mississippi State, Bama, which is back to back to back.
Is there a bye week
teams
in between any of those?
Not those. Their bye week is
that might be tougher than Tennessee's got a stretch of.
I'm sorry, you're right.
They do have a bye.
Their bye week is between Mississippi State and Alabama.
Okay, because Tennessee's got a stretch. There's a bye in there somewhere, but they've got South Carolina, Georgia, Florida, Alabama, Auburn, all in a row. They have a bye in there somewhere, but that's just brutal.
That's rough.
And it really
doesn't matter.
Okay,
so Jimmy's moving his to. If we're going 11-1, he's putting his money on LSU.
I'm moving
at
mine to
LSU.
Yeah,
I'm going to stick with South Carolina, so that way if we get over the hump, then we're going 12-0. You heard it here first.
There we go.
Yeah, my original thought was going to be Auburn. I mean, it's later on in the season, so I think
Auburn makes the most sense. Auburn is definitely the best pick. I'm just trying to be edgy here.
I'll tell you what, but we don't have to get off. I want you to hear what you're saying, but I'll leave you with this before you even get started. Auburn, after that bad taste that left in our mouth last year, when they come to Athens, we're going to give them hell. And I swear that's going to be a ruckus crowd.
They don't play very well in Athens under Gus for whatever reason.
That's true too.
They also kind of have a tough stretch. They got Mississippi State, Tennessee, Ole Miss, Texas A&M, and then us.
At A&M?
That is A&M is at home.
Okay, so they get it.
Okay.
That's tough, though.
You know, I mean,
A&M's
interesting, though.
Because that's almost like it could. I think Ole Miss and A&M are such question marks that we could look back on that and be like, they could be Tennessee, Ole Miss, and A&M could be like 3 of the bottom 5 teams in the SEC.
That's what was Tennessee, Ole Miss, A&M.
Yeah, so that, like they could end up being all really bad, or Ole Miss and A&M could surprise some people and be
sure.
Tennessee's gonna be bad no matter what.
A&M could. I mean, Jimbo Fisher did it quick at Florida State and A&M.
But he had Jameis Winston though, so I don't know who's playing quarterback for.
I don't either.
A&M right now.
Yeah. So I mean, my original thought was Auburn, but looking at that's later in the season, if they make it through there, and even if they're healthy, I still think Georgia has a better chance of beating them.
Oh, I mean, on paper we're better. We're better talent. I mean, they are talented, no doubt. Their defensive front, as we talked about in their matchup versus Washington this Saturday, they're talent. I mean, they are a good team. We just get them at home. I think we're going to be pissed off. We're coming off at Kentucky.
And they were just so. I mean, the home field advantage they had last year was amazing. Like, credit to Auburn.
Oh, they were fired up.
That stadium was out of control.
Well, they whooped us. We can't hide from that.
Yeah, they did. But I mean, it's all the credit to their fan base and their students, because even just watching from here in Atlanta, watching on TV, you could see how hostile that environment was. I think it'll be equally hostile, hopefully, against them this year. But it'll be hostile in like a grinded out, make them quit, make them stop wanting to play way.
Yeah.
Like, I don't see us running up the score on them real bad.
No. I don't think I don't think he has that kind of bad blood.
Are you guys going to that? I know, Tyler, you got tickets to that game. Do you have tickets, Jim?
I don't have a ticket yet, but I booked my Airbnb this past week, so I'm definitely going to be in Athens.
I definitely want to go to that
You
game.
do?
Yeah. Even if it's just to drive down like early morning of, I think
you should.
Yeah,
that's the one game I want to see.
We could do the bus.
Yeah, you
That's
can
true
do the
too.
bus.
Are you doing that, David?
I want to do a bus trip this year.
We're doing the bus from
Where does
New
that-
Orleans to Baton Rouge.
Yeah.
It's the same company.
Another
Same
one
company
of-
that did the Notre Dame one?
No, but the same one that'll do it from Atlanta to Athens. I guess
They do it from the Ivy, I think, in
They go from-
Buckhead to Athens, but then they're doing it from New Orleans to Baton Rouge. It's called Dog Days.
Dog, yeah.
One of our sponsors, actually. Maybe.
Soon
Maybe.
to be.
Could be.
Maybe.
Starting next week.
That's bold.
The first time I did it, it was really interesting because
Oh, yeah. What game was that? I remember.
Clemson. I think it was Georgia Clemson. And it was so weird because we go to the Ivy and you're drinking and
This is at like 8 a.m.
Yeah, 9 maybe 9.
Just my usual Saturday.
Game day.
And you hop on the bus and you keep drinking. I mean, people brought coolers of Jello shots. Like, it was a party all the way to Athens. And it's happening on the bus. You show up into Athens what felt like 20 minutes.
Really?
I mean, because all that going on, it's not like the actual drive. And it was so weird. I mean, we popped out right by Boar's Head at like 12 o'clock.
Just appeared.
Sunny day, and it was like, wow, this was the greatest thing ever. I feel like I just like Star Trek transported here.
It happens to me when I drink too.
And I'm already drinking,
So do they have a tailgate area set up for the bus people, or is it just like, hey, we're dropping you off?
I think
here?
you usually get a wristband and you get drink specials at certain.
It's a bar partner.
Yeah, they partner with bars.
Dude,
but
that would be awesome.
It's a really good deal, and I mean, especially like coming back home and sleeping in your own bed.
That's true.
That's fair.
all the driving's done for you.
They always do it. They were doing after parties at the bar that you start at in Atlanta.
Wow.
But to me, I never made it that
I
far.
remember they were when we would do a similar thing to Georgia, Florida from St. Simon's in college. I don't feel like we ever made it to
Yeah.
that.
To that
It's a long day.
Yeah.
Did you ever feel rushed leaving? That's my only concern. It's like afterwards, I kind of, if you win, which we will win, but when we were in Baton Rouge, I want to kind of relish in the moment and kind of enjoy it. Maybe head back to a bar and hang out. Did you feel
For
a
us,
little?
it was, well, you got to go to the right game because, it was a early game. So
Clemson was like 5:30. It was one of those weird like ESPN.
He had been drinking, guys.
Yeah, it felt like enough time to celebrate
appeared
the
at-
win. I
That
didn't.
5:30 was a fun kickoff.
It
I
was.
remember
That was a good
specifically,
time.
It was
That
like
was
plenty of time to
perfect time.
tailgate. You
Yep.
could go eat dinner afterwards.
Mhm.
What's the cost of those things?
Like $100.
Not even like
They have is alcohol included.
Well, our one in New Orleans
Wasn't the one in New Orleans has alcohol on the bus?
what we took
They
to,
stock it?
Yeah.
They have
Oh my
they have a drink cart like you're on an airplane.
Anything
Like
from
in Harry
Trolley
Potter?
Dairies?
The one, yeah.
Anything off the
exactly.
trolley, DS?
Yeah, exactly. We'll take the whole lot. But
That whole fifth.
those are pretty.
some
pretty-
squally wampas.
Those are some pretty specific references.
Sorry, we're
But
nerding
no,
out.
the one that we took to Notre Dame was I think we went to a bar and there's like bacon
It was
and eggs and stuff.
bottomless mimosas and Bloody Marys. I
And
think.
then they had
Bougie.
a drink cart on the bus and
Yeah.
they showed us Rudy and we met a lot of really nice Notre Dame fans from all over the country.
yeah.
Tyler,
Great trip.
earlier in the podcast, not this podcast, the other one, we were talking about the construction on the stadium. Did we ever get a read on whether they finished that?
There's a ribbon cutting ceremony on Friday.
Oh my god.
Yeah, and actually there.
Kirby's over there cracking a whip.
I was actually kind of what was I say underwhelmed, I guess, by our run out tunnel. And now that I've seen some more renderings, they're actually adding. They must have heard my complaint.
Yeah.
From my big donation I gave them. But they actually have like a
Money
graphic
talks.
wrap around there, so it's actually going to look a little more. Which is such a small, minute detail, but it actually will look a little better because that'll be on TV when they're
Yeah.
showing us.
Yeah.
It's a little better than running out of a concrete wall and set of doors. So.
And that- I mean, that's-
Pyrotechnics always adds flair.
It can.
I mean, that stuff matters because you're dealing with. I mean, when you're doing it essentially for recruiting,
Yeah.
these kids are 18 years old and they don't have a clue what they're doing. I mean, it would not surprise me to see some 5-star linebacker one day to be like, "Yeah, Georgia had this cool
Run out.
rap thing, whatever."
A lot
I don't
cooler
even
than
know
the
what you're talking
or
about. but
Yeah.
I remember seeing a Clemson. Somebody that signed with Clemson one time said I believe he signed with Clemson over Auburn.
I think you're talking about
because-
his time with Auburn.
He signed with
Quay
Auburn
Walker.
over Clemson. No, Quay Walker's.
I think it was no.
Plays for
golly, I'm
Georgia.
so sorry.
What are you talking about? About Chick-fil-A, right?
Yeah,
Is that
Chick-fil-A was on campus. That's why he chose Auburn over Clemson.
right? Is that what it was?
Wasn't the
What was that kid's
Valid.
name?
It wasn't
The
that
education.
giant,
It was
suitcase full of cash.
It was the
that
kid who
they gave him at
he-
Pat Dye's
he
cabin the
committed-
weekend before signing day.
he committed the Under Armour game, Under Armour All American. He said, "War Eagle, baby." What was that guy's name?
I don't know. You're
Quay.
looking like you're enjoying this memory a little too much.
Well, it was funny. It was like, anyway,
It's
moving
not
on.
that kid that's there now. They call Big Cat. Is
No.
it?
Mm-mm.
He went to Quay's high school, but I can't remember his name.
I can't remember.
He's-
Sawyer Page.
he's-
Let us know.
Yeah, Sawyer, let us know who Big Cat is, but he's dead to us now. He didn't come to Georgia.
Awesome. Well, we're going to go ahead and move on. We got a couple other fun topics that we want to discuss. But before that we do that, I want to give a shout out to Ed Freeman State Farm. If you're like me and you're accident prone, then you're also like me and you seek out the best coverage. That's why we all rely on Ed Freeman State Farm. I've said it before on this show, and I will say it again. Ed Freeman is by far the best agent in the state, if not the megacosms.
Ooh.
I looked that up. That is a real thing.
Yeah, we're hearing this in real time, so it's exciting for us to hear how Will's going to come up with something bigger than whatever he's done.
The list is dwindling.
Yeah.
So if you need any kind of coverage, if you've got a house, a boat, a car, or a life, reach out to Ed Freeman. Check him out, Ed Freeman State Farm, for all your insurance coverage needs. So we're going to stray away a little bit from UGA football, actually a lot away from UGA football, I guess, here. And we're going to talk about something that I guess is kind of off the beaten path as far as sports are concerned, or it may not even be sports, but that's what we're here to determine. And the question is, what is more of a sport? Is it poker or esports? And if you don't know what esports are, you probably have a life, unlike me. Basically, esports is video game competitions. Unfortunately, on a heavier note, they've been in the news recently for the incident we saw with the Madden tournament and the guy going in there and shooting it up. But it is a big thing out there, right? People compete in these tournaments, whether it's Madden, whether it's, I'm sure Fortnite or whatever has something out there. But then you also see poker on ESPN, right? Mm-hmm. So what is it? Like, do you consider it a sport? Is it just like a hobby? Is it a competition? What do you guys think?
To me, because I'm also a big gamer like Will myself, I'm going to say esports, simply because that is talent. It does take, I don't say talent. It sounds funny saying that. It takes practice. It takes time. It takes a lot. And it's solely you.
A lot of work in the gym.
You are in control of that. You got to work out the thumbs. You got to make sure your hand, has the ability to last, hours.
Drift boosting.
Yeah, I mean, you can control your own configuration, everything. To me, I'm not also a big card player. So whereas, yes, there's skill in knowing when and what to call in situationally. To me, there's a little more luck involved in how the chips fall your way. No pun intended.
I relate cards more to like chess, right? But I would say esports is more related to like drone racing or something. So you're really talking about brain.
Now we're getting out there.
Well, you're really talking about brain versus reflexes.
Versus brawn, the brawn of video games.
Well, wouldn't you say normal sports is reflexes though?
Yeah, that's what I'm leaning towards, right?
Yeah.
It's more of reflex reaction,
like drone racing than normal sport. That's David's
I've seen drone racing on TV
on a football podcast.
I'm not going to knock it. But let me get this straight. So you're saying that poker is like chess in what aspect? That it's more brain power, more strategy? Because I hold chess like as a game in pretty high regard. I feel like that's like you got to be a pretty brainy guy.
Chess is not a sport,
right? But you got to be a pretty brainy guy to play that.
You don't think chess is a sport, but you'll call video games a sport?
Well, I guess they're both competition.
I think chess is more of a sport than poker.
I feel like
I agree with that. It's more of a sport than Texas Hold'em, because Texas Hold'em, there's no skill. The skill is bluffing and knowing when to hold and when to fold. And
how good of a liar are you?
Basically, but I mean, there's no.
How much of a degenerate are you?
Because you don't actually control anything except when you fold, and how much you raise.
For me, I guess esports, it gets that rap because it's Madden, it's FIFA, it's the show. The games can be, and most of the times are, about a sport, even if it's Rocket League and it's like car
Rocket
soccer.
League, yeah.
It is. It's based off of a sport, so I think that's where it gets a little more of that's where I would argue that gets more of the view of that's a sport, whereas chess is not. I don't know. I mean, you can you say, I don't know, it can go both ways. We can get into this, but you can sit on your couch and play a video game. That's hard to call a sport, just as much as you can be sitting in a park playing chess with an old man, and that's also not a sport.
Yeah,
Is cheerleading a sport?
Yeah, exactly. Like, is cheerleading a sport? That was always something that came up.
There's a blurry line between sport and competition. Like, what makes something?
I mean, I would say competitive cheerleading. Like, if you're going and you have like routines and stuff, I could see how you would argue that that's a sport.
Sure.
So, I mean, to that point, I think
I would argue competitive cheerleading is more exciting to watch than like women's basketball.
I would also agree with that.
Absolutely.
Which is objectively a sport.
If you disagree with this, let us know. Yeah. Well, it doesn't mean it has to be a sport because it's more exciting. Let's think.
But is it more of a sport if it requires more physical activity?
I'd say yes. What would require more physical activity that you wouldn't consider a sport?
I'm just saying, like, things like
you could consider like jogging not a sport, but you could consider darts a sport. Yeah, and like we talked about on the last podcast, and jogging definitely requires more.
But there's no competitive jogging. That's like a 10K, a 5K, a marathon, a half marathon.
There's the speed walking. in the Olympics.
Okay, now we're getting
You have to keep
weeds.
one foot on the ground at all times.
That's in the Olympics?
There's an
Yeah.
episode of Malcolm in
Archery.
the Middle about it.
You don't move much in archery.
Well,
That's in the Olympics.
Webster's dictionary defines sport as an activity involving physical exertion and skill in which an individual or team competes against another or others for entertainment.
My thumbs are worn out.
I've gotten pretty fired up at a video game before. I've sweat and gotten, same thing as
Yeah.
exercise. I turn
Yeah.
red, I get mad.
I feel like for this, I guess I'm supposed to say poker, so we have two viewpoints. But
You can
I
say
would-
whatever you want.
I would agree with
I
that.
honestly want to know.
I
Yeah.
mean, I would agree with y'all that it's like you could argue that video games are more of a sport just because they require so much more like practice, in my opinion.
Mhm.
But I will go on record saying that all of the new generation consoles are fake news. And if you want to know how good of a athlete you are, you should play Super Smash Brothers for the Nintendo 64
That's fair. I agree with that.
Or
Yeah.
Mario Kart.
or Mario
Yeah,
Kart. But
that's
Super
good.
Smash Brothers Nintendo 64 with the hammer turned off, the heart turned off,
Maximum tomato.
and the tomato
And the
turned
star.
off. And the star turned off.
None of that
If
Bush
you
League
need those
stuff.
to win, that's garbage.
Yeah.
Home run bat requires legitimate skill, so you're
Yeah.
allowed to use that.
I wish that they would like go back and retroactively make that
An online game.
an online game.
Oh my gosh,
that
so
would be.
fun.
I would get nothing done.
If we have any listeners that think that you could beat me or Tyler in Nintendo 64 Super
You're
Smash
wrong.
Brothers, you're absolutely wrong. You're
Yeah.
welcome to come to our
I've
studio and play against us, and we will. I don't know. We'll buy you a beer, get you to Ed Freeman.
We've got several
T-shirt
friends that are
that-
pretty good at that.
No, we do.
That I must say.
Yeah,
That, you know,
Tyler and I live together in Brookhaven. And we live in the studio. Actually, that's how
That's true.
That's how hard we're trying to make this podcast
Mhm.
work. That
Yeah.
we had to.
We
uh,
live this.
Living
we had to move out of
downstairs
our
in the
house
studio.
and we just sleep in the studio.
and I
just
actually commute. So.
grinding all the time.
Mhm.
But we have a pretty good house full of Super Smash Brothers players.
Yeah,
I
we
would
do.
say. Yeah.
Yeah. Somehow I stumble into those games every once in a while. It's usually not pretty to watch, but I enjoy it. I'm out usually pretty early, and then I get to take in what happens through the end of the match. So I enjoy
I just
it.
hide in the
There you
corner
go.
till everyone else is down to like 3 lives, and I've somehow saved maybe
Yeah.
4. But that
Yeah.
usually gets me like a 3rd place, which I'm never too disappointed
It's the
about.
classic Jeff Becker move. Just be Donkey Kong and
Oh.
try and stay out of the way until everyone has less lives than you.
To a
and
reminder
just
to all our
survive.
female listeners, we are either taken or
I know you're wondering how.
able to be dateable. Trust me.
Yeah. So I wonder we'd stayed single for as long as we had with this conversation that's been going on.
I mean, I feel like Georgia football's coming up, so that's. I
Yeah.
gotta stay single right now.
No, yeah. I mean, it makes it cheaper that way too.
Yeah.
No doubt.
I got a lot on my plate right now.
Yeah. But kind of moving on from that, we do want to bring on another discussion for Mount Rushmore. These hopefully will become a staple on the show and on the podcast. We like to mix it up, sometimes sports, sometimes, outside the arena, so to speak. But I did want to talk about this Mount Rushmore discussion, which we landed on prior to the show, and that is, what is the best Disney Channel original film?
Movie,
DCOM, if you will.
DCOM.
Disney Channel
Movie.
original movie.
Whatever.
not D. It's DCOM.
It is DCOM.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
accurate. Okay.
It's for the kids. Okay.
Seems like I sit next to a couple of them.
Okay.
Anyways, Tyler, what's one of your picks here?
Well,
to
my
make
number
Mount Rushmore?
one is Brink. Speaking of a sport, how athletic did Brink look beating Val in that last race to win?
Yeah.
Team Pup and Suds versus X-Blades is... I mean, that's a competition for a lifetime. I mean, that is eternal. That was exciting.
I had a whole
And-
birthday party themed around Brink.
Did you really? How
I-
could you
e-
not?
Everyone
That sounds
brought their
fun.
own rollerblades, and we were just in my
There
driveway.
you go.
Just like,
Did you role play? Were you a certain character?
Yeah, I mean,
You were Brink.
yeah.
Brink.
Who doesn't want to be
obviously.
Brink?
Brink
right?
is the title
It's my
character.
birthday.
I mean,
some
Brink-
people don't know that. Some people don't know what Brink is a reference to. It's actually a character's name.
Brink had everything because he skated for his team, which was
The
just for
Soul
fun.
Skaters, correct?
Pup and Suds.
Pup and Suds.
Oh, that was a soul.
We're gonna hang
but
in there.
isn't
Pup and
that-
Suds, Team Pup and Suds all day, and then he betrayed Team Pup and Suds. Joins Team X Blades, betrays Team X Blades, goes back and wins with Team Pup and Suds.
He was a double
you could
agent
not.
the
whole time.
Hollywood couldn't write a better story than that.
You can't make this up, even though they did. They literally did.
Brink is my number one on Mount Rushmore of Disney Channel original movies.
That's a great pick. That is definitely one of my favorites. Growing up as an inliner myself, I think that I got to say that tops the list for me. I'm just jealous that you got to say it before I did.
I'm sorry.
It says they called themselves the Soul Skaters right here on Wikipedia.
Okay, the
They're
team
the
name was not the
Pup and
Soul
Suds.
Skits. It's on the T-shirt.
They skated
were
for
sponsored by a
fun.
local dog
grooming service.
facility.
Okay.
And they
Okay.
were Team Pup and Son. So they ended up actually
I
getting
think Brink
a
worked
sponsorship.
there actually.
He did,
if I'm
yeah.
not mistaken.
That's how he secured the sponsorship, which brings me to my next point.
He did have great hair.
He did have great hair.
That's fair.
And
Yeah.
we are still looking for
He
sponsors.
gets a job at
so-
Pup and Suds, a dog grooming business part time.
There you go.
Yeah, right here per Wikipedia.
But, I didn't hate Team X-Blades either. I mean, Val is a hateable character, but I think that actor played that so well.
Yeah. No. Yeah. You hated him when you were
You
younger.
loved to hate him.
But I was also kind of torn too because X-Blades had all the nice stuff.
They
The nice
did.
facility, the good ramps. I mean, it was quality. It was
Like
tough.
the Patriots
That
of the
had to be
inline
hard.
world.
Yeah, I mean,
Just to top the-
that had to be tough for Brink to walk away from. I mean, you
Yeah.
got everything or your friends. I mean, you can find new friends if you got.
We know you would bail.
I mean, I'm all about the amenities.
Free
in life.
apparel? See you
Yeah.
guys.
Okay. Clothes, more clothes.
You guys got free vending machines? Yeah, screw you guys. I'm
Yeah. What about
Jim?
you, Will or Jim?
I want to hear Jim's here.
Okay.
I got Smart House.
Damn it.
Is that yours? This is like
I
when we
put this
took
list
off,
together.
when we took off David's superheroes.
Also said Smart House at the end of that podcast, so I snuck it.
Yeah, so I stole that from David too.
That
Yeah,
that
Smart-
song in Smart House was strong. Whatever that was.
This is the one he's playing at the party when
Yeah.
the girl throws her sweater.
Risque.
Yeah, she throws it on the plant, and then when everything like dissolves into the ground, it doesn't disappear. And the dad, that's the funny
that's
part.
how
of
he
the
gets
movie.
caught.
The dad comes home and he like sees this random girl's sweater, and he's like, "You just had a party that the computer house cleaned up." I was like, "How'd you
Well, there
connect
you
those
go.
dots?"
I forgot about that part, but yeah.
I don't know, but yeah, that was a fun movie to watch. I think we all wished we had like a smart house growing up because then
Yeah.
kids didn't have to do any chores at all. The house just did everything.
Oh, that's
for
true.
them.
I was
And then
about
it
to go
went
the
rogue,
Alexa
though.
route.
That would have been pretty cool. What?
I said, yeah, but then the house went rogue.
It did.
What was
yeah.
her name? Do
Pat.
you remember? Pat.
Yeah. I
Does
don't
it
know
stand
if-
for something? Is that a?
I don't know. I was
is
about
that
to say like in like
Hal.
Hal in what is that? 19
Space Odyssey.
Space Odyssey. You know what Hal is a reference to?
Is that the movie where she's like, I'm
It's-
sorry, Dave.
Yeah, yeah.
I can't do that.
Yeah.
It's like one letter removed from each letter in IBM.
Ah.
Mm-hmm.
I have no idea what we're
That's
talking
one of
about.
my
What are you
favorite
talking
movies.
about?
I own that movie.
I got so far. I don't have no idea where we're at.
In 2001, A Space Odyssey. It's basically a
Okay, well,
grown-up
I've never
version.
seen that movie. No surprise to anybody
It's-
here that knows me.
Yeah.
It's basically a grown-up version of Smart House, where this computer is like the supercomputer that's supposed to like save them or whatever, and it goes rogue.
That
and,
was
like,
a low budget film like,
kills
in like the
them?
late 60s.
Was it
really impressive for that.
Was that a book before it
Same
was a
can be
movie?
said about our podcast.
I feel like it
I don't,
was.
I don't read books.
Right on.
We are getting outside our realm. of
Okay, yeah.
what
So
we know
Disney
about.
Channel original movies, Mount Rushmore. Before we got
Yeah.
Brink,
So Pat, we're trying to figure out
and-
what Pat means.
Was Johnny Tsunami one?
and
That was on my
Johnny
list.
Tsunami was one.
Sorry, Will. Your turn.
That's all right, David. Just go ahead and just take the next best one.
is it David? What is yours?
I was gonna say Smart House, but now I just said Johnny Tsunami as a backup.
Is it really John Summers like your number 2? After
No,
Smart House?
no. Like I said, I was a Nickelodeon kid. It's so hard.
But
Did
I
Nickelodeon
need like a
have
brief
movies?
recap of Johnny Tsunami because he was a surfer, right? And then he went to snowboarding. But
Urchin,
how
if
did
you
that?
will, Urchin.
He moved to Vermont, and all the kids were too stuck up, and they were all skiers, and they called him an urchin
Urchin.
because he was a surfer.
Guys and urchins.
And then there's like
Would've been considered
some old
racist.
man, like a Mr. Miyagi type thing, where you
I
find
think
out
that was his grandfather.
He used to be a snow. No, I think it's a different character.
I thought he moved in with his
I thought it
grandfather
was his
there.
grandfather.
That's Karate Kid.
Well, I know, but I don't know. Some old man ends up being a
It's his
snowboarder.
grandfather.
Is it his grandfather?
I think it is. I'll confirm. But yeah,
We'll find
no, I think
out.
it's a grandfather.
We probably should have done a little more.
It's
research.
okay. No, these are fun. Everyone loves reminiscing. If you haven't
Yeah.
watched any of these, go back. Popcorn, grab a beer or 4,
Yeah.
and see if you can get
And-
through
so-
these movies.
Another good one that's a little bit of a tearjerker, Miracle in Lane 2 with Frankie Muniz.
I don't remember that.
No, I
one.
don't.
Before
either.
he was creepy. He was his
Is this the
character.
boxcar racer?
Is this
one?
New
Mhm.
Age?
It's a boxcar racer, and this kid, he was his older
Okay.
brother was like a big athlete, and he was born with spina bifida, and he's in a wheelchair, and he finds a
Yes.
soapbox
Yes.
derby car
I
in
remember
his
this.
neighbor's garage or something, and then he becomes like a big racer, and it's just a really inspiring story.
What was the one with the twin double trouble?
Parent Trap?
No, they were
No,
like the
there's one
volleyball
where
players.
Oh, I thought
or
they played basketball.
Yeah, well, if I remember right, they had to do so much to get those girls to look like twins because they did not.
They
at
weren't
all.
twins.
Really?
They were just two random
like one
girls.
One was like 3 inches shorter than the other, I think, and
Weren't
had to
even the
wear
same
like
race.
huge platform sneakers and.
I think they have to do that with Tom Cruise in like all his movies to not be obvious that he's like 5'5".
Well, he's
Yeah.
Scientology. He floats next to
Yeah,
people.
they have to use force perspective and stuff.
He's like hanging him up in the air by his pants. It's like Carting
He's
him
just
down.
pretending to walk. He's like floating along. So he's taller than Nicole Kidman, who
Yeah.
I think is like 6 feet tall.
Tom,
Yeah.
don't take any of this personally. I know
Yeah,
you're
not a big fan of the
listening,
show.
but, You know, this is not a slight against you or your stature. This is just pointing out the obvious that the camera angles do work in your favor.
And you got another movie?
You know, there's several that I put on here. Smart House and Brink and Johnny Tsunami were all very strong picks. Those topped my list for this Mount Rushmore conversation. But I had Motocrossed that was put
good.
on there.
Oh, yeah.
That was an early female empowerment movement. I think if everybody remembers correctly, you had the younger sister of a well-known motocross rider who sneaks in and takes his place after suffering
An
a
injury.
dramatic injury.
She wears his.
She
his
does.
She
stuff
cuts her
so
hair
no one
even.
knows.
She
She
is
does.
so committed. She cut her hair.
She does. Yeah,
Cut
you know
her hair.
So that was a strong one that resonated, I think, more now than it even did then. So I think
That's
that
fair.
has a big place in history amongst the DCOM movies.
Yeah.
Right? Did I say
Yeah.
that correctly?
DCOM, yeah.
DCOM.
Mhm.
Then you had Luck of the Irish, which was
That was
That was a good one.
classic.
That was strong. With the necklace, right? He found the necklace, and that's what allowed him
Is
to.
that what it-
Yeah, it was a necklace. His grandfather back to
Something.
grandfather.
He goes to like a potato chip factory or something. That's some
definitely in
plot
there.
line in that
This is
movie.
seriously Irish.
Yeah, the guy tells him that it was like a potato.
The potato
factory, and
famine was wrapped into that
He
somehow.
accidentally sliced the potatoes too thin and accidentally invented potato chips.
Yeah.
using
His
the Luck of the
grandfather's a
Irish.
leprechaun, and so he's part leprechaun. He's a basketball player. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot going on here.
There's a lot to
movie.
unpack in that
Spud's
plot.
Web.
I don't
Good drop,
understand that
David.
reference.
Spuds.
He's
like
a
the
black
potato.
Irishman.
Spud's Web.
Okay.
I liked
I
it.
don't know that one
I
either.
don't
You also had
understand.
Alley Cat Strike.
That was good. The
It's about
9-10
bowling,
split.
maybe.
Or no, 7-10
7-10
split.
split.
Yeah,
Welcome
when
to
she
Vegas.
she had the 7-10 split on the last frame. The youngest person on the team, right? Can't remember her name. Maybe it was Allie. Not sure. And she put
Don't
the
play it
ball-
off like you don't know. That's definitely her
Okay.
name.
And she spun the ball. She wet her finger into the hole and then just and let it go. And
What did she do?
Yeah, you
still
heard
talking
me.
about basketball?
We're talking about
talking
Alley
about
Cat. It's bowling. First off. Okay, we're bringing off track here. To bring it back in, great movie.
Yeah.
Hell of a win at the end there.
How
For her
about-
team.
I can't tell you how many times I tried to do that as a kid, and the bowling alley
Bowling?
staff just hated it because the ball would
It
stop
doesn't even make it all the
halfway
way.
down the
Yeah, it
alley, and
doesn't
they'd be
make it all
like,
the way.
"Is this? Did you just finish watching this? God damn it!" And they'd have to walk out there and get the ball, and I'm like, "I'm going to do it again, so you might as well just stay here."
Yeah.
Also,
a good one.
we can give an honorable mention to, excuse me, to not Halloween Town, but
Halloween Town was strong.
well,
Hocus
yeah, but the
Pocus.
one Hocus Pocus, which we had a kind of a long discussion before the show about whether that's a Disney Channel original movie.
yeah.
Which I don't think it is,
don't
but it
think
was
it's in there.
always on Disney growing up.
Yeah,
that was a good one
It
with
might
Sarah
be in
Jessica Parker.
This would be weird. It's like an 8. Yeah, Sarah Jessica Parker was ahead of her time there. She looked good. Good witch. But no, back to thinking of seasonally appropriate. Halloween Town was also a strong for me.
Yeah,
Disney
Halloween
Channel
Town was a
original
good
because I
one.
mean, it always came out during the fall. Halloween Town, October, and it kind of held me over the few times they showed it. Waiting over until the weekend for football to come around. So it was a good. It was a good entertainment value for waiting on Saturdays, in my opinion. Yeah, and the Cromwells were just like really strong witches. Probably couldn't make it in Hogwarts, but they did good for Halloween Town. So
Yeah.
homegrown witches and wizards.
Yeah, American Witches are.
Yeah,
they're just
I thought they did it pretty well. The other one was
Hey, speaking of Hogwarts, I did
go
say
ahead.
that. Sorry, Will.
no. It's okay.
This past Sunday was on this day. It said 1994, but that doesn't sound right. I think it was 2004.
I saved this stat.
Victor Crumb caught the snitch in the Quidditch World Cup final to make his team lose to end the game on his own terms.
Yep, 1994. The Bulgarian seeker.
That
Victor
doesn't
Crumb.
sound right though, because I'm pretty sure. When did the series supposed to start?
Maybe she
Yeah.
wrote it back then, before it was
I
published.
thought it took place from like 1998 to
It was
like
91, I
2005.
thought. It was
Not
about. But even 91
98?
would nope.
The
because
series
that'd
was
make
in
Harry 3.
91?
That'd make Harry 3 at that time.
I was in like 5th grade.
Yeah.
It was back in the 80s
Well,
or 90s.
I think maybe the first book came out in 2001, and it picked up like when Harry was 11 in 2001. So Harry was born in 1980.
Oh, good point. Good point. Maybe that's what it was.
So
yeah.
maybe it was 1990.
Okay.
The timelines are all screwed.
He was
They
born
were
in 1990.
He was born in 1980,
earlier than
and he
that.
was 11 in 1991 when the first book came out. And then even though it took her like 15 years to write the rest of the books, they chronologically take place in 7 years.
Wait, that first book came out in 1991.
Allegedly.
No.
Per
the
this
first
timeline.
book came out in like
Every single one of us has computers in front of us.
the plot
is this?
the plot is happening in 1991. we are picking up in the year 1991 in in
the Sorcerer's Stone. Or the Philosopher's Stone,
if you
read it in England.
Yeah. Anyway, so it was on this date in 1994, Bulgarian seeker Viktor Krum ended the Quidditch World Cup on his final terms after catching the snitch in a controversial play that gave victory to Ireland. No, gave the victory to Ireland, who won 170 to 160.
That was
so Viktor
controversial.
Krum,
because they were winning 170 to 10.
Because the snitch just gives you 150.
Yeah, Krum knew that his chasers, there's no way they would bring it back within 150 points. So he
you can't
wanted
blame
to.
him though. I mean, the Bulgarians quit. I mean, they have never been known for their beaters. And
yeah, I mean, he was a once in a generation player that really,
that's true.
Brought them to
his
new
speed on
heights.
a broom was. I mean,
had a hard time pronouncing Hermione's name. But
yeah, it was kind of sad to see him in decline. I think after all of that, I mean, he had a strong showing in the Tri-Wizard tournament, but
did he? Mm-hmm. He came from Durmstrang. He wasn't a bad guy though.
Yeah, it was only him and Cedric Diggory that touched the port key and went through. Cedric was left back in the maze.
Yeah, Cedric didn't make that though. Pour some out for Cedric.
Ooh, this is rough.
He didn't touch the port key.
Cedric and Harry did.
Cedric and Harry.
Oh,
did.
yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah, Victor was left back in the
Victor
maze.
died. A lot of people died later on.
Well, he was cursed.
Yeah, but he was healed by Padam Momfrey, no doubt.
Madame Pomfrey.
Padam Momfrey.
He said Padam Momfrey.
I've been drinking also.
How are those beers working out for you?
Not so well.
This is fun. We should just make a
we probably lost
podcast.
a few viewers here, but
I don't care. This is too fun.
I think I've heard we have a pretty strong following at Home Depot corporate headquarters. So I think they said they enjoyed the first Mount Rushmore discussion that we did. Yeah,
love the Home Depot.
So shout
Arthur,
out to
we said
I'm trying to remember everybody's name. Jess and Ben and Chris, I think.
Okay.
Definitely Jess and Ben.
Shout out to you folks.
Yeah, thanks for listening.
Yeah. And on that note, I want to say thank all of the rest of you for tuning in and listening. It's been a pleasure talking football and some other random stuff that we got onto here at the end.
We'll have actual football to talk about next week.
Yeah.
We'll have some
game one will be done.
breakdown.
It's game week. Get excited.
Yeah. Get excited. This is going to be, a great week, right, for sports.
Saturday can't get here soon enough.
Yeah. Looking forward to talking with you all next week about the game and the future schedule. But until then, be sure to like, subscribe, and share these podcasts. You can find us on iTunes, Spotify, and, of course, YouTube. But until then, thanks again for tuning in, and go Dogs.
Go Dogs.
Go Dogs.